I think that's the easiest mistake that can be made is not looking at every platform that you're on and making sure that just your home pages are consistent, right? Like that's it. Your bio's the same, your name's the same, and your image is the same. That's probably the easiest thing you could do right now to help your brand.
Welcome to Marketing Stuff. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the debate of dropping stuff or over contemplating what it is that you're creating in your content. So wherever you sit on the fence, we got some information for you today. I'm your host, Maurice Davis, the on-demand CMO. Greetings and welcome back. If you are a returning viewer, I always appreciate your support, and I'm glad to have you in the winner's circle. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the crew. Our mission is to help you level up your marketing game in a practical and reliable way. This show is dedicated to making marketing more accessible and understandable for professionals and business owners like you. So make sure you hit the subscribe button for new episodes filled with marketing insight. Without further ado, let's dive into the world of marketing and get started with our guest today. He is an expert in marketing design and creative development with a unique background in fine art, marketing, and automations. He's a lover of all things Web3, and he loves to sit at the intersection of where art and technology meet and create websites that are supercharged. Let's welcome Jason to the show. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Maurice, it's so good to talk to you.
Yes, man. Okay, so interesting thing about this show, we do this thing where if you are listening right now, you've been keeping track. I did meet Jason on TikTok, so send in the updated number. If you are correct and you've been keeping accurate track, I'll enter you into a drawing at the end of the month for a semi-fabulous prize that will be announced later on.
Am I able to get that prize?
No.
Just kidding.
Yes. So interestingly enough, you and I, before we kind of hit record, we were talking about how you decided to engage with some of my content.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I fell into the Maurice side of TikTok, and it was like there was a time where I think you were like every fifth or sixth video that would drop down when I'm scrolling the FYP.
Dude, that's wild.
It was wild. And what was wild is like, I'd love one and be like, yeah, I'm going to be friends with you. And then I'd see one and be like, no, it goes against everything. No, I can't be friends with you. And I'd see another one and we're friends again. Like, it was, I have to say that you are probably the most consistent as far as someone dropping in my feed for so long before I fully engaged. And now I am fully engaged with everything you have to drop.
That's so crazy. So talk to me a little bit about just the idea of like seeing something that I post. Cause I know, especially like thinking about it from your perspective of, again, that fine art technology intersection, right?
Yeah. So, and that's the thing about TikTok. I think it brings so many different types of marketers together, not to mention that it opened its own marketing, department, its own genre and niche. So you have that giant melding pot of a platform that specifically lumps you all together. I find that you end up with a lot of people that have a lot of nothing to say, and that the ones that either are 100% agreeing with you or 100% disagreeing with you, those are the ones you're like, yes, or, you're engaged with. And I just, your consistency in your message, what really drew me into wanting to keep hearing what you had to say.
Yeah, so let's give some folks some context on this, because it's so funny to think about. What's one of them that you can remember?
Right. So let's just start at the beginning. You came out the gate, if I remember correctly, and you were, logos don't matter. And because at that time, I think on TikTok too, there was a ton of people just trying to sell nothing but logos at ridiculous prices. And there was a big spool of this like, traffic and funnels, and like everyone has to have this massive brand, and for you to come out the gate and just be 100% against all of what those people were dropping. It was like, what? And then, I've had over 20 years of design experience. In my experience, I started off in graphic design, just building, logos and brands from the ground up, and then getting a ton of corporate experience behind that. For me, I was like just shocked Like, why would you come out and tell someone? But then now, further down the line, in my own experience of like opening my own creative shop and no longer working for other people and all that, the imperfect action is the action to take. And if you are a young entrepreneur, everything that you said is absolutely correct. So as much as I didn't want to hear it at the time, I 100% agree with it.
Yeah, it's funny because if you looked at my TikTok, you would think that like like sometimes you think that I'm anti-branding.
Yes. I would say like if someone just found you today, went to your TikTok and went straight to your page and started just scrolling videos, they would probably say you are anti-branding. But I would say your branding is anti-branding.
Yeah, that's so funny.
You know,
well, that's kind of it's funny because it was unintentionally intentional.
Yeah.
For a very long time, like you said, there's been so many people that have been preaching it. And again, for anybody listening right now, branding is important, right? And I do a fair amount to make sure there's some consistency across the things that I do. I was actually talking to I was doing a YouTube audit last week on TikTok. And one of the things that I told the young lady when I'm looking at her YouTube is like, hey, you're using different pictures across all your social media platforms. And I'm like looking at them, trying to find you. I overlooked you, right? Just pick the same picture.
I think that's the easiest mistake that can be made is not looking at every platform that you're on and making sure that just your home pages are consistent, right? Like that's it. Your bio's the same, your name's the same, and your image is the same. That's probably the easiest thing you could do right now to help your brand.
Absolutely. So as the anti-branding guy, like I probably spent a year and a half just deep diving into branding, reading the books, applying this stuff, helping businesses with the stuff, right? So it's like when people talk to me about branding and how important it is, like I get it. I really do. I'm a huge proponent of customer experience, and I understand the value that branding adds to customer experience.
I'm so glad that you just said that because I think the amount of people that don't understand that customer experience and the way you treat your employees is like one of the toppest things you can do for your brand. You want people who talk about you in a third person, someone who has interacted. That has to be the best voice,
right?
That comes from under your roof, whether it's an employee at the lowest level to your customer who had possibly a really bad experience and gave you an opportunity to, change that. Those things, biggest moves you got to do.
Yeah, it's just funny because like anytime I actually talk to a branding person and we get a chance to like talk more about the nuance, I think most people realize like, oh, you don't actually hate branding, right?
Yeah.
I just want to hold branding to a standard of it's not, and going to the whole Marty Neumeier thing, like it's not a logo, it's not your website, it's not all those things. And so like, if we acknowledge that it's not all those things, then we then have to realize that those things cannot be the most important thing when you're crafting your brand and when you're creating your business and when you're trying to generate revenue.
Those things that you just mentioned are only tools that a brand will use. That's it. We are talking about tools. We are not talking about an entity itself. All right. But does an entity need a presence somewhere? Yes, it does. So that's why, websites are important. Your social media presence is important. But when you are just getting started and you are doing those things as a whole, no, you want to start a business. First thing you need to do is not go dump a ton of money into a website. The first thing you need to do is just start writing your actual plan on paper. That is it. Take a pen and a paper and start building a business plan. You will be 99% more effective by hitting your marks if you have written them down, which includes getting that website when your business is ready for it.
Yeah. So that's funny. I just put up a TikTok today that's like, if I started tomorrow, I wouldn't build a website. Right.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
I would go out and just pound the pavement and get my first 10 to 20 customers and focus on that first, because there's so much stuff that you start to learn like recently. And this is part of the reason why I've dialed back on the like hating on branding. It's because I started doing like podcast production. And to me, and you heard it here. I believe that podcasts and like YouTube videos can be a proxy for measuring brand, right?
Absolutely. And it really boils down to, and I've been saying this for a really long time, history of content. All right. The internet itself is about history. That's all it does as a mechanism, is record constantly. All right. And you are able to go back and then hit those notes. But if you are a brand and you're starting out, wherever you start and whatever platforms you start using, it's about that history of building there. So like if you're not successful at YouTube, but you keep using it, the history of being on YouTube will matter. And the success will come within the history of using that platform.
Yes. So as I've like started helping people launch podcasts, I'm like, hey, like this brand stuff, it matters. Like this conversation is for brand new people. But I don't necessarily think a brand new business owner with no track record of success should start a podcast either. Right. So like we got to make the main thing here.
Unless like you and your buddy are just really good at jiving over some beers and you create one of those podcasts. Yeah. But as far as business goes and trying to be ahead of your niche, that's not the first. You shouldn't start there.
No. And if you're going to start here and you're like, eventually, if you know you're going to start a business, but you're not ready and you want to start having conversations with people in the space, that would be a time where I'd say, okay, this makes sense, right? Let's go out. And you might not even call it a podcast. You might just go out and do interviews and just document your learning. And that's cool, right? But if you're like, I just started my business 3 months ago and we're thinking about starting a podcast as a way to like rake in the customers, and we need customers in the next 90 days, this ain't it.
Oh, that
right?
Ain't it, no.
And so it is a long-term device for solidifying your thought leadership, which will increase your trust, credibility, and authority in a space, reducing the speed at which you get customers, right? So it's
history of your content creation. This is another piece that can just fit right into your brand as far as the history of you creating content on your niche.
So let's talk a little bit. Let's rewind back. Cause I'm sure there's some other things that I've said that you're like, nah, dude, I can't get on board with that. So like, what are the things that when you're thinking about like the visual element, right? The visual element of communication, what are some of the key things that you're like, hey, even if you're new and just getting started, you need to have these core things lined up to be successful?
First thing I got to say is take yourself out of your shoes. It isn't what you like. It's not what you think you're going to want to like. You got to put yourself through the customer experience of your ideal customer. And if you're able to do that and try to put yourself in their shoes and then look at the content you're producing, you're going to have a much better idea of how you want to visually communicate with them. Because, you could like a logo all day, but then somebody else is going to come along and be like, oh, I can't stand that font, or I'm not understanding what you do. All these things. So if you're able to kind of do a character study on your ideal client and work backwards, you'll end up with a much more, what's the right word to use here? Like solidified brand strategy to really hit your target market. Because at the end of the day, right, we're talking sales at a target market, no matter what business you're in.
Right.
That is always your end goal.
So you mentioned before, you said the website, the logo, and all those other things are the tools. So if I'm a new business owner or a new marketing professional, and these are the tools, then what are the things that I should be focused on to try and cultivate my brand? I hope that question makes sense.
This is going to depend on industry. All right. Because somebody who's a baker that wants to open a bake shop, I'm going to give completely different advice to than somebody who is starting a marketing business or an online e-commerce store. I think first off, what you need to know is how much technology are you going to need? Is this something that is going to be internet based, or is this something that is going to be customer forward and person to person? Those right there are going to separate the tools that you would use, right? Because then if you're person to person, like you said, if you were going to start fresh right now, the last thing you're going to worry about is getting a website. You just hit the pavement. What are you not going to need? You're not going to need a website. That's a tool you're not going to need.
Right.
But what you might need is just maybe a Google My Business page. So you have some sort of credibility on the web. And Google, if you have a Google My Business page, gives you a free website you can put in right inside your Google My Business page. And that's something that, for someone who doesn't need a lot of web activity, can do that. Simply make sure it's updated all by themselves without having to hire a professional like you or me, and really get their business moving, because they have some sort of a digital communication going right there with minimal need for a brand facing, strategy.
Yeah. I like that you brought up like getting started and leveraging a tool like Google My Business. For folks that are getting started, Google My Business offers one, and then they also have Google Sites, which is a little more customizable. So if you want something that's a little more controllable without the cost, right, you can do like a Google site and get you a domain name for $12, $30.
I mean, I believe that there's probably some stuff out there where you could get your domain name for free. Like that domains now they don't even matter. They're just an address, no different than your home address. So if you wanted to be, like wherever you live, you're 327, my house, it's whatever you want for your business. Your tagline could be your web address. I like, people always ask like, oh, well, what should I name my business? Do I need to see if the web address is there first? So I'm like, no, name your business what you want to name your business. And then you reverse engineer how people find you.
That's interesting. That's another one where we differ a little bit, but I can get on board with that.
Here's the thing with it. It ends up becoming a marketing trick, especially if you use your tagline as your web address, right? When you introduce yourself to someone, what are the chances that they're going to remember what you tell them? And you're like, oh, hey, go to my website. How many people have asked you to visit a website where you didn't write it down? They didn't send you a digital link. And you're like, yeah, totally, I'll go there. And then when you sit down, and you probably don't even remember to look it up.
Yeah.
But if you start using some more, like wordplay or marketing tricks within your domain name, well, that makes it a lot easier for someone to remember your business and your web address without having to, shoot them a digital link.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. It's kind of like, how they used to do those phone numbers, and I can't think of what I'm talking about, but it's like 1-800-HOT food.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Same idea. Yeah. Right. So instead of focus so much on the business name, the thing or something super memorable that's, I'm driving by and I'm like, oh, what was that number? Oh, it was 1-800-HOT food. Right.
Well, what really separates, right, the professionals apart from the people that are, just want to be professional marketers that actually aren't, is the actual process of creative thinking, where a professional marketer understands doing this for other businesses. And so they're going to do the best they can with the tools that they're given from that business to do it with. So you're going to be able to come up with that, like, oh, well, your domain name doesn't need to be that. Let's use this instead. Yeah. Where, somebody who's a little either too in the mix, it's their business, they're too close to it, they're not going to see that solution.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. Oftentimes people will ask me, like, what are the best tools? And I'm like, it's what you got. Like,
yeah, absolutely. It's the best tool you got is going to be your drive and willingness to see that business succeed. How much time are you willing to put in? Because that's, at the end of the day, the only time a business is going to fail is if you let it. Is you can always grind. Even if like my servers went down, I lost my websites, all that, I'm going to go hit Kinko's, print flyers, and go door to door going, here, I can build this for you.
And I think that brings us back to the comment of like, some of this stuff is just not necessary. And the challenge that the digital age has brought, the digital space has brought so much opportunity, but it's also brought in so many non-criticals. And
well,
go ahead.
Here's the thing: is it all boils down to your money spent. Where's your ROI, right? If you're spending, and I find this, and right now, if you had, every marketer out there should be knowing this, but like, your ad spend on Facebook, you've been throwing money in the air and burning it for 2 years now. Like, it hasn't mattered. You're not seeing anything new happening for your business. You're wasting money. And that money should be pivoted and moved somewhere else. And or taken out of the marketing game completely, and maybe content creation where it doesn't cost you anything but your time is a better solution. I think what really boils down to is too many people try to throw money at a shortcut. And in the end, that makes a lot of certain people really wealthy, but it doesn't do anything for your business. And if you're trying to, make your business succeed, you're not going to do it by throwing money at a problem. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the problem is. Like, you have to kind of have like a physical action plan solution. You can't just put money on it.
It's interesting that you would say that Facebook is burning money, especially from like the branding perspective. I would think that you'd be very much into putting a little money behind a Facebook ad. Where does
dude, no. Why not? Because I can create content on other platforms, automatically have it posted to Facebook, and get more action without spending a dime in that direction. That's why. Because I've not seen the ROI in that investment, where just creating content alone has shown me ROI. My time was invested well, and I didn't spend a dime.
Yeah.
See, now this is where right now TikTok is the hot market. This is why I see you on TikTok. That's why I'm on TikTok, is because I can spend a little time on there, create a very small piece of content, and watch it live and generate, over and over and over again, not just on the TikTok platform, but using artificial intelligence. I'm using that one TikTok video to hit every social media platform I'm on.
Yeah, this is, and I think this is why I like you so much, right? Because we don't agree.
Yeah, we don't agree. And there's nothing wrong with disagreeing. We come from two completely different marketing backgrounds. Where I'm on the creator side, I started on the marketing floor as the lonely graphic designer, worked my way up to creative director. Then, where like you've got your MBA and you're like, you come out the gate with your spreadsheets and you could probably run a room. I'm telling you.
My spreadsheets.
I'm just playing.
No, but it's true, right? Like, when I sit down in a client meeting, we're not talking creative, right? We're not.
No.
We're talking like, here are the numbers for search traffic. Here's the likelihood of you peeling a few percentiles. And then here's the expected conversion, right? And this content lives over this period of time frame. And this is what I would expect that you're going to see, right? And so
the only thing I would say there is that there needs to be a conversation on top of all those numbers on the visuals in that actual content itself.
Yes. So here's the interesting part, right? Like, when I'm starting with a client, we do spend some time on branding.
Yeah.
I believe that it has to meet a certain standard before we can kind of go too much further, right? There's some conversation around what does this stuff need to look like? So I've kind of shared this before, but interestingly enough, right, the anti-branding person, the show marketing stuff came from customer interviews. Yeah. Because after working with 350, 400 entrepreneurs, most of the time when they're talking about this, they're saying, I don't understand this marketing stuff, or the marketing stuff is complicated. And so, like, we just took the name from that. So, like, there's some context that I feel like my client or customer has to come to the table with. But when we start talking about, like, where is it that I shine, it's interesting. So, like, right now, I just sent a proposal off, and we're talking about email marketing, right?
Okay.
And
I'm very, very familiar.
Part of the crux of that, I'm a numbers and testing guy.
Okay.
But most of what we're talking about when we get into that is stories.
Yeah.
And so, like, even though I'm a performance marketer, I do believe in like the necessity behind having the creative piece align with your customer and what your customer expects. And then also making sure that there's that consistency across the different pieces of content so that it makes sense.
See, I think right there, you could use that as a definition of branding. Right? I think that's where people really get confused, is they're not really sure on what branding is, right? They're like, it's a logo. And I'm like, well, there are multiple parts to a logo. there's a word mark, an icon. Like you can break everything apart down to these, niche words, but the brand itself it is what you were just saying. It's like you take this concept of ideas and you form a business around it. And then you have to use these very consistent and precise strategy measures then to make that work. Now, if you put that framework in and you name it this and you visually brand it with an image, then now you've got a logo and a brand strategy that will take any business forward. So it is like the anti-branding branding, where like everything that you are saying is absolutely correct, that you have to have all these very strategic things in place. But where the consumers get hung up is on like this one thing, like this logo has to be perfect, or my one website has to be perfect. Those are what I like to call as the imperfect actions, because if you don't take those actions, you don't take those steps, then you don't have a business. Right. So like you were saying, those things don't matter if it's between you getting off the ground and not getting off the ground.
Yes.
But the framework itself matters.
That is definitely like the core of my message is like, come on. If it's going to take us 9 months to get the logo right, but we can produce something that is passable during month 1, then
absolutely correct.
It's 8 months of loss, right? And we have to account for the 8 months of
money.
Loss. Yeah.
Time is money.
The amount of customers that you get to produce just by having it exist. And this is something that I think gets overlooked. And I really love that you said consistently showing up, the history, because there are customers that I've gotten because I'm just existing and still existing.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that like, I think sometimes as businesses, we don't really like to talk about, but like people show up and they're like, I've had people come to me like, I just went back and I looked and you had like 500 lives. So I assumed you knew what you were talking about.
So this is what I tell anybody who's willing to listen. And it's like, is there one thing that you can do for your business that takes you a very minimal amount of time, but if you did it every day, after years of doing it, would show you exponential growth? And that's just create content. For real. Get a blog, just create something and just do it every day, because no matter what happens, you are going to get better at it. It itself is going to evolve into something better and bigger. And the history of doing it comes back to really matter.
And I think the challenge here sometimes is the getting out of our own way.
It is.
I have a client right now and they were talking about essentially how do they get more out of their podcast? And, the conversation was like, and in a very Gary Vee fashion, is like, you gotta talk about it more. Like, I don't know really what else to tell you at this point. The challenge oftentimes, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they were like, well, I want to have the best post. And it's like, that's cool and all, but you don't post enough for me to know what the best post is.
Well, here's the thing too about that is if you did post enough, you'd be able to look at all your posts and pick the best post.
Right.
That was the best post I did for that month. If you are not posting, you're not going to get to your best post. You're just not.
Yeah. It's the desire to optimize before you have anything to optimize that like really hurts us more than it helps us, which is a large in part why I'm like, just do it. Right. I know it sucks, but it's okay. Right.
I mean, honestly, I think I have to listen to you say, just do it more than others, because being a creative professional, nothing puts you in a box more than somebody who's spent an entire career thinking outside of a box, because you're like, what's next? But then I just got to see you pop up on my TikTok. Then I'm like, you know what? I just need to be saying something. That's it. I just got to say something.
The interesting part about like just saying something is you really start to discover what it is that you actually want to say.
Yeah.
I went on a year-long like go live every day, and they were bad. Like, these lives, they were bad. They were not good. If I went back and looked at them, there would be so many opportunities on coaching and things like that I would give myself. But it was very much like, you just got to do it. Right. And figure out what it is that you want to talk about. And much of my core beliefs around business were discovered through doing live every day and talking about what I believe and what I don't believe, and having conversations with my audience, and them figuring out what it is they jive with and what they don't, and like this process of discovery. And so for folks that are like, well, I just got to figure this whole thing out, right? There's tons of strategies for like content research and all. It's all great.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's going to take you 9 months to do, just start talking. Yeah, just start talking as you're do the stuff in the back end, and just start talking with what you know today.
I will tell you that you are going to see a huge separation starting now, and this is going to be because of Web3. All right, but you are going to start to see a huge separation in the marketplace from people who are willing to do those lives and just start talking versus the ones who aren't. And this is going to happen. It's already started slowly, but I guarantee you've already seen some separation with possibly some of your clients in their content and how it's performing. But the future of way things are going is in Web3, we are going to go from a social consumer-based environment where you have more consumers versus producers to a very hard producer environment with a lot less consumers. Okay. And in order for you to be able to maintain an audience, you're going to have to continually publish content. And there's going to be no way around that. Right now, we're looking at a pivotal point where social media platforms are beginning to fade in a sense. Facebook, its numbers have been dropping. I don't know what they did to Instagram, but it's almost unbearable to spend more than 5 minutes on, and TikTok right now is really captivating a moving audience. Twitter is learning from that lesson, and they're trying to do their best. But Elon Musk, he's got some secrets under his sleeve. I think he'll be the first social Web3 platform.
Okay.
If you know much about his history, it makes a lot of sense for him to move that direction. Yeah. But right now we're in this space where we're kind of going to end up with a void, and there will be a new something coming. And when you do, you're just going to notice like the people who are not producing, their viewers, their engagement is going to drop.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to a place where you can start to see who really has something to say. I don't.
Here's the thing of why I love TikTok so much right now is the value of the content doesn't have like a heavy weight value behind it, right? Like anybody can add value. You don't have to be some giant CEO with $1 billion company behind you. Like a matter of fact, that doesn't even matter. I've probably learned more from, a single mom of 3 just chasing our kids around all day who just decided to start a business on the internet. And you're just like, whoa, like you did all that while chasing through, like hats off to you. It's the availability of information is only going to get grander.
Yeah.
The internet is only going to get more refined. And what you're going to find is the people that are going to stand out are going to be the ones that just are willing to be themselves. If their business aligns with that.
My struggle with TikTok is the way that it, the discovery mechanism, which is kind of like, again, a catch-22, right? Like part of the reason why you and I are sitting in front of each other today is because of the discovery mechanism.
Yeah.
But what I find now is that it's very difficult to like get outside your box almost.
I disagree there.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, because there are ways on TikTok that it depends on subject. All right. So let me just ask you a quick question. I don't want to date you or anything, but how old are you?
I'll be 32 here in short.
Okay. You are old enough to have seen generational changes in behaviors on the internet.
Sure.
Right? Why I think I like TikTok so much is its algorithm is almost hackable by understanding that it works by specifically releasing videos that are tagged, categorized certain ways into small groups. Some groups that you are in that category and groups that you are not. And this algorithm tests both of those, right? So you could tap a new group and test really well where like maybe you fell off with your current people who actually follow you. But you could end up in this whole other niche with a crazy amount of video views, you know, than you did here. Another thing that I love about TikTok is I feel that as an account as a whole performs better if you aren't just talking about one thing, but being more human about it, right? Like I own a business. I use my TikTok to promote my business, but I also just use it as a social media platform because I'm a human that likes to engage with it.
Yeah.
And I found by doing that, I have expanded my audience quite a bit and with very minimal effort. And while using that AI platform to then distribute that through other platforms, I have found growth on other social platforms that I had given up on years ago, like Pinterest. I gave up on Pinterest. I was over it, even though at the time, I think that they used to be the 5th largest search engine. I think they're number 3 now. But it's completely changed Pinterest for me because I'm posting on TikTok.
Yeah, I guess I can see what you're saying. Let me be a little more specific. Not so much from the posting content perspective. So the other day, I'm on there. I'm looking for marketing professionals specifically, right? Because I'm trying to see who is not like trending upwards, but is really laying great content, right? They just really they haven't figured TikTok out yet.
Yeah.
I find those people hard to find on TikTok. And then maybe say that again.
I can definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like a platform like LinkedIn.
Can I ask you how you're searching? How deeply are you diving?
Yeah.
Like, are you just scrolling or are you like hashtag chasing? You are, okay.
Yeah. Jumping, typically starting off with like a very broad and then filtering down and trying to find videos that I like and then pulling hashtags that way.
So comparatively to another platform like Instagram, do you do that same thing on Instagram?
I'm not really on Instagram, but okay. I could.
So, because I'm just curious is if maybe you're not seeing those people could be because the type of people that you're looking for aren't necessarily a lot of them on TikTok, but maybe they haven't migrated to that platform yet. Right?
Yeah, it absolutely could be.
In the generation of how social media grows and moves, right? Like TikTok is still really young, right? They still do not have a user base like Instagram and Facebook being, and it is possible for you to chase that content somewhere else and then awaken them to how they could virally change their content using a platform like TikTok.
Yeah, I found some. I have found some, which brings me hope that they exist on TikTok. But you're right. I could probably look over on IG. It's funny how, like, again, I'm talking about being in my bubble, and it's like I'm on TikTok, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and those are like.
I think the most important thing that we can do as professional marketers, if you want to have a career longer than a few years, is to be able to constantly adapt and chase the new thing, and constantly do it, from back in the hand coding of our MySpace pages to, all the sub platforms like Inked Nation and whatnot that all disappeared. Like we're in this subsect right now where we're going to start seeing new things and things disappearing and moving over. And I think as long as you're able to market your business and keep moving and be able to want to learn these new things, it really doesn't matter what platform you're using anymore. Just keep going.
Yeah. So let's jump on that for just a hot second. When do you limit for your own personal bandwidth?
Ooh, that's hard. I would say right now I limit a lot. I'm not like as you know, I do not post daily. I don't even post weekly sometimes. I got to the point where I don't let it bother me at all. Like I don't feel like it's that thing I have to do. I personally feel like the one thing that I do keep absolutely consistent is I like to write for my blog, and I do it every week, right? So that when I am ready to post, or I feel when I do post, I like it to be like, straight from the heart. This is what I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm jiving with. I find it a lot easier to be able to create that in the moment social content.
Yeah.
If I follow that dopamine hit, so what I do is I just want to continually gather and write content for myself, whether it's just my mass amounts of Google Docs or my mass amounts of notes. And then when I do post, I feel like I'm able to then post something that I'm confident about and I love. And then I can, throw it out there. But what I find is that I don't expect anything to go like big right away. I got past that a long time ago, and it doesn't matter if it does. Right? The videos that you post, they don't have to go viral. But what I do is, I'll post something about an article in my blog. And then all of a sudden, 6 months after that article's been posted, and maybe 5 months after I said anything about it, I'll start getting a lot of traffic. Where like that one thought, that one idea where maybe it didn't hit in the moment, it suddenly caught on. Where it goes back again to continually being consistent in the history and how you use these tools, right? And historically, I haven't posted all the time and every day, and it would be probably weird for my business or for me if I did. So I feel like as long as you stay consistent to the history of how you use your tools, you will see the growth that you want to see. Sometimes it just takes longer than others. Some people have that overnight success and growth. Other people, it just means you got to keep going.
That's fair. It's funny. So I said, like, I'm not on Instagram, and that's not true.
You just don't use the platform.
Yeah. There's a presence there. And I've kind of gotten to a point in my career where it's like, I need a presence in these places, but the way I limit my bandwidth is like
very, very little bit of AI. You only have to have presence in one place, a focus in one place, and then your message will carry. And I think that's really the future, is where you're going to get the most out of what your effort is in your business. It doesn't matter what, just where are you going to get the most growth in your business? Where's that effort best put? And if you can find that zone with what it is that you need to do to hit that, then keep going.
Now, for
your zone, boom.
For your aggregation tool that you're using right now, what are you using?
Repurpose.io. I absolutely love it. It when you really dive into it, it is got some amazing features where I can filter the video. Like I can just be on TikTok and just go, right? And how I tag my content and in TikTok, the AI itself then can categorize where I want it placed, right? Because like maybe I only want, when I talk about crypto and Web3, to go on Pinterest, because that's where I'm getting a ton of hits back to my website.
Yeah.
So then as long as it's tagged with certain hashtags, it won't filter to Instagram, Facebook, and something else. It'll just hit that. Or if I don't tag it at all, or tag it with other tags, I can have it hit everywhere. And I am a less is more in design. I am a more is more in content spreading. So I want every content I hit to hit everywhere, even if it's not my target audience, because if you're already seeing my content and you haven't hit me to work with me, then it doesn't matter that you have eyeballs on my content. I'm trying to reach new people. And so in the concept of trying to meet and reach new people, I just throw it all out there, and I will continue to just throw it all out there because the history of doing so will benefit me.
Yeah, it's funny. I need to spend a little more time and repurpose. That's what I use too. And everything from TikTok drops over to IG. So when you're like, are you on it? Like, yeah.
I think my favorite feature is I save everything automatically through repurpose to a Google folder on my Google Drive. And the best is because months later, I can go back and start repurposing content inside Canva or something else. And like I said before, dude, the creating of content, the more ways you can break down that single piece that you created and get use out of currently and in the future, like it'll help you. And I can't even explain to you how far this goes back. When I was working for really large brands, as a creative director, we would set up photo shoots to do catalogs, right? And catalogs oh my gosh, 2006 were like that. Your marketing budget went to catalogs. Like that was the biggest place, your biggest marketing spend, because they were basically magazines for your brand and you all about. But what we would do as a smart marketing team is while we had our athletes in there, while we had our product there, we would break off with just iPhones and small cameras and be silly and take photos and all this stuff. So that way, when, you're building a catalog like 6 months before it's going to drop, and usually 6 to 8 months before that line even hits the rack. So when that line does hit the rack and then you need that social media content, all you got to go is dip in what you've already done.
Right.
So when you're creating content, no matter what your business is, no matter what it does, you just got to think, what can I do right now while I'm in the mode, while I'm wearing the floss, while I've got my phone out? Like, what else can I do to create, even if I don't like it right now? Because I'll have a pool to dive into and rearrange or rework and have content for maybe those moments I don't. And then I can keep that consistency.
Absolutely. Well, we are getting towards the end of the hour here. Last question. I
feel like we just got started.
Last question on the show is, if someone watching can only take away one thing from everything that you shared today, what would it be?
Ooh, history of content creation matters. I really want the listeners to go home and kind of start to rethink what they're creating and maybe how they can create more with the same amount of effort.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, because it helps you in so many other aspects of your business when you start to rethink what you're already doing to get more out of it, because then you're going to start rethinking, oh, well, what about over here and over here? And maybe if I change this process slightly, things just get more streamlined and easier. It's ever evolving. Everything that you do, your business, it's ever evolving and growing.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's the history of content. So folks, if you are watching right now and you're not creating as much as you could be, I'm not 100 pieces of content a day guy, but definitely lean into a little bit more to some imperfect action, start creating things, and allow that time period for I need to create, and through the act of creating and looking to improve, let the volume of content be your gateway to more consistent, higher quality content, I guess is the best way to phrase that. So that's a wrap for today's show of Marketing Stuff. I hope that today you gain something that will help you further your marketing or your business. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, we do reply to 100% of comments that you share. Or you can message us at Marketing Stuff Podcast on Facebook, or feel free to send me an email at maurice@marketinggrowthstrategy.com, and we are happy to answer whatever questions that you have. We can't wait for you to join us again on the next episode of the Marketing Stuff Podcast, where we'll continue to bring you the latest and greatest in marketing. Thanks for listening, and until next time, make your marketing count. Outside of that, stay out here winning, y'all.